Imagine you're in the middle of a critical assignment, deadline looming over your head, and your colleague makes a snide remark. Now picture the pressure building like a pot about to boil over, the tension in your shoulders, the quickening of your breath, the tightness in your chest, all signaling the onset of anger. This is a situation most of us are all too familiar with. This is the breaking point. Our story today revolves around a man named John. John is in the thick of it, right in the eye of the storm. Picture John sitting at his desk, eyes glued to the screen, fingers dancing over the keys, racing against the clock. He's on the edge, teetering on the brink of his breaking point. John's colleague, oblivious to the pressure he's under, leans over and makes a snide remark. It's a casual comment, a careless jibe, but it's enough to tip the scales. A wave of anger washes over John. His face flushes, his heart pounds. He feels the familiar urge to snap back, to shout, to let his anger out. But wait, let's pause here for a second. We all know this scenario. We've all been John at some point. We've all experienced that rush of anger, that urge to lash out. But what if we could choose a different path? What if instead of succumbing to our anger, we could manage it, control it, even use it to our advantage? In that moment, John felt a surge of anger. He felt the heat rise in his cheeks, the tightening in his chest. But instead of lashing out, he took a deep breath. He chose to step back, to take a moment to consider his options. He chose a different path. Yes, John was at his breaking point, but he didn't break. He bent, he flexed, he adapted. And in doing so, he showed us that we all have the power to choose our reactions, to control our emotions, to shape our destiny. In that moment, John felt a surge of anger, but instead of lashing out, he chose a different path. John wasn't always this composed. His journey started years ago during another heated argument. John used to be a fuse ready to ignite at a moment's notice, a storm in human form. He would lose control, his anger a wild beast that overpowered reason and compassion. It was a constant struggle, a battle he fought every day but couldn't seem to win. His anger was a consuming fire, leaving ashes of regret in its wake. There were incidents, of course, that made him realize the extent of his problem. Instances when his wrath seemed to eclipse everything else, when he became a person he barely recognized in the mirror, like that time during a family dinner, when a harmless joke turned into a full-blown argument, or that day at work when a minor mistake by a colleague resulted in an explosive outburst. But there was a turning point, a moment of clarity. It was during one of these heated arguments that he caught a glimpse of himself. Not physically, but a reflection of his inner self. He saw a man controlled by his anger, a puppet dancing to its tune. And he didn't like what he saw. That was his moment of self-realization, his wake-up call. He understood that his anger wasn't just affecting his relationships, but also his own peace of mind. It was a parasite feeding off his happiness and tranquility. That's when he decided to change. It wasn't an easy decision, and the path ahead was no bed of roses. But he knew it was necessary. He knew he had to tame the beast, to regain control over his emotions. He realized that he had to change, not because someone else wanted him to, but because he yearned for a calm within the storm, a peace that was being eroded by his anger. And so began John's journey towards self-control. It was a path filled with challenges and setbacks, but one he was willing to tread, because he knew the destination was worth it. John knew he had to change, not for others, but for his own peace of mind. Change is never easy, but with the right tools, it becomes manageable. Let's focus on John's journey. To control his anger, John turned to various techniques that we're going to discuss now. Each technique has its own merits and effectiveness in managing anger. First, John practiced mindfulness. Mindfulness is about being fully present in the moment, accepting and acknowledging your feelings without judgment. It's not about suppressing anger, but rather understanding it. John learned to recognize the early signs of anger, like a racing heart or a heated face, and used mindfulness to stay present and not let his anger take over. Next, John used deep breathing. This might sound simplistic, but the act of taking slow, deep breaths can help to calm the mind and body, reducing anger. When John felt his anger rising, he would take a moment to focus on his breath, taking long, slow breaths in and out. This allowed him to create a pause between his feelings and his reactions. Then there was cognitive restructuring. This is a fancy term that basically means changing the way you think. John learned to replace his negative, anger-inducing thoughts with more positive, rational ones. Instead of letting a minor inconvenience ruin his day, he learned to see it as just that, a minor inconvenience. John also used other techniques like physical exercise to channel his anger into something positive, progressive muscle relaxation to reduce physical tension, and problem solving to address the root causes of his anger. Each of these techniques helped John in different ways. Mindfulness helped him understand his anger. Deep breathing and muscle relaxation helped him calm down physically. Cognitive restructuring and problem solving helped him address the mental aspects of his anger. And physical exercise gave him a healthy outlet for his anger. Remember, these techniques are not quick fixes. They require practice and patience. But John found that with time and persistence, they really did help him manage his anger. With these tools, John was slowly but surely learning to control his anger. The same can be true for anyone willing to put in the effort. After all, change is never easy, but with the right tools, it becomes manageable. John's transformation didn't happen overnight. It was a journey filled with ups and downs. Imagine a trail hiker traversing through the rocky terrains, the steep hills, the deep valleys. The journey is tough, but the hiker doesn't give up. That's John for you. John faced numerous challenges while trying to control his anger. There were instances when he slipped up, moments of weakness when he let his anger get the better of him. The frustration of not being able to control his anger sometimes made him feel as if he was stuck in quicksand. The more he struggled, the deeper he sunk. But the beauty of John's story is not in his struggle, but in his resilience. Remember, this is a process like learning to ride a bike or mastering a new language. You're going to stumble, you're going to fall, but it's about how you pick yourself up and dust yourself off that counts. John didn't let his slip-ups define him. Instead, he used them as stepping stones, learning from each one to better understand his triggers and how to manage them. This journey is not just about the destination, it's about the journey itself. The transformation is not an event, but a process. It's about the small victories, the baby steps, the gradual progression. Patience is key here, like a potter molding clay, shaping it little by little. It takes time to shape our behaviors and reactions. John was patient. He was persistent. He understood that this was a marathon, not a sprint. He knew that each day was an opportunity to learn, to grow, to better himself. And so he forged ahead, undeterred by the setbacks. Despite the setbacks, John never gave up. He knew he was fighting not just for his peace, but for the peace of those around him. And that's the spirit we all need to embody. It's not just about us, it's about the ripple effect our actions can have on others. That's the true power of transformation. John's journey wasn't just about controlling anger, it was about understanding himself better. This is a story of self-discovery, of finding strength in vulnerability, and of the power that comes with self-control. Let's revisit the key takeaways from John's experience. First, self-realization is of paramount importance. It's only when John looked inward and acknowledged his anger issues that he was able to begin his journey. Denial is often our first instinct when faced with a flaw, but it's a roadblock that prevents us from growing. It's crucial to be honest with ourselves and identify areas that need improvement. Second, we learned about the techniques for anger management. Remember the pause and reflect method? John used it to great effect. When anger started to bubble up, he would stop, breathe, and reflect on the situation. He would ask himself, why am I angry? And is this worth my peace of mind? This simple yet powerful technique helped him gain control over his reactions. Another key point is the need for perseverance. Change is a long process, and it doesn't happen overnight. There were times when John slipped back into old habits, but he did not let those moments define him. Instead, he learned from them and used them as stepping stones towards his goal. Now let's talk about the benefits of this transformation. By managing his anger, John improved his relationships. He became more understanding, more patient, and his loved ones began to see a change in him. His mental health improved drastically. The constant state of anger he was in had been a heavy burden on his mind, but learning to control it felt like a weight had been lifted. He was happier, calmer, and found joy in the smallest of things. His productivity also saw a significant increase. Without the cloud of anger hanging over him, he could focus better and achieve more. In the end, learning to control his anger was the best decision John ever made. He discovered a peace within himself that no one could disturb.